welcome to this video edition of Simply Real Health. Today we are not in the kitchen, as you can see, but we are talking about food. We're going to talk about the 6 foods that are marketed to you as being healthy options, but are actually not healthy at all because of how processed they are. I'll talk about what those 6 foods are and also give you some better replacements in each of those categories. Okay, so food number 1 is Diet Coke. I know, a lot of you are so disappointed. Yes, it is low calorie and sugar free, but that doesn't mean anything. What matters is actually what's in the food. So because it's made with artificial sweeteners, I think it's totally the wrong way to go. Not only will your body start to crave more sugar because your taste buds will be forever coated in it, but also because the chemicals are actually very toxic for your brain and not good. So instead of doing Diet Coke, I'd recommend doing some kombucha, doing some sparkling water, maybe even with a little bit of juice in between. Something that still has that same fizz and a little bit of an energy boost, but without all the scary stuff in there. Number 2 is agave syrup, kind of for the same reason. Anything that sounds too good to be true usually is. That's my rule. Agave is something that's come into the press more recently, and it's actually something that now they found has the same amount of fructose, if not more, than high fructose corn syrup. So why that's important is just because it affects your blood sugar much differently. It can spike you up, drop you down, and makes you eat more food overall. So instead of doing agave, I would recommend the absolutely natural, normal sweeteners that have been around forever. That would be organic maple syrup, some raw honey, and some blackstrap molasses. All of those have great enzymes, vitamins, and minerals that you cannot find anywhere else, and are definitely the least processed sweeteners out there. Number 3 is pretzels. So pretzels used to be such a popular snack because they were fat-free. In reality, I think it's much more important to think about what is in those pretzels than thinking about certain components like fat or calories. When you look at the ingredients on most pretzels, you will see a long list of things, many of which starting with processed and enriched flour. Enriched flour, again, does the same thing as sugar, very processed. It's very different than a whole grain. So just because it's fat-free or low calories does not mean it's good. Instead of doing pretzels, if you want a salty or crunchy snack, try making your own popcorn with organic popcorn, coconut oil. I have a great recipe on the blog. You can also try to do some organic corn chips instead to get that crunch, or make your own trail mix. Number 4 on the list is soy milk. So soy milk and actually tofu are pretty scary processed things, I would say. I have talked about this before in a previous blog post, but it's really important to know that the way that most soy is produced in this country is very different than how it used to be produced. Very different than the old world way that we used to consume and grow soy. So 3 things about soy that are kind of scary. Number 1 is that the way that it's processed, it's usually genetically modified, the way we grow it. Second reason, soy itself mimics the molecule estrogen in the body. So for men, definitely not a good idea. For women, anytime your hormones are being messed with, can be tinkered with, not a good sign. Third reason is that most soybeans actually grow with an intense layer of acid around them. So you have to do something to get rid of that acid before you eat it. Most modern day forms of soy do not do this. So if you don't get rid of that acid, you end up ingesting it. It can cause a lot of inflammatory problems, a lot of food sensitivities, bloating, gassiness, you name it. So it's definitely something to be aware of. Forms of soy that are much better would be fermented in organic forms. Those help take out a lot of the inflammation and also the acid, and takes away the genetic modification factor for sure. But every person's different, so just be on the lookout. Number 5 is rolled oats or instant oats. Although it's been called the breakfast of champions by many people, rolled oats and instant oats are actually very processed forms of steel-cut oats. Steel-cut oats is the original way, the whole grain form, has all the vitamins and minerals and fiber and great things that can be found in grains. But when it gets to the point of actually going down the road to be rolled, to be flaked, to be instant, you lose all of those nutritional benefits and actually end up with something that can cause a little bit more inflammation and stress on your system. So instead of doing oatmeal in the morning, I think it would be a great idea to try some quinoa. Quinoa is a whole grain. I have a great recipe for a morning quinoa recipe on the blog. And you can also try doing just plain steel-cut oats. Things that you have to soak and cook are always going to be much better for you than the shortcut, I'm sorry to say. And number 6 is smart balanced spread. This one drives me crazy. So anything, again, that says it's too good to be true, saying it's trans fat free and much better than butter, you have to kind of think about what's actually in it that makes it so. So again, looking at your ingredients will always tell you what you need to know, but in reality, doing butter is a much better choice because of how our bodies are meant to digest fats. Butter is a very pure and simple food. It's a one ingredient food, as I like to say. It digests much better and actually helps you absorb more vitamins A, more vitamins D with good healthy fats. So replacing that smart balanced so-called healthy spread with going back to butter or olive oil or trying some coconut oil out. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sarah Adler from Simply Real Health. If you'd like more tips like this, make sure you're signed up for the weekly email at simplyrealhealth.com. Everything you need for a healthy life made simple.
Never